Maybe. Good morning.
I don't know what's going on. Why do we not have a countdown? Hello and good morning to Leviathan News. Good morning. Good morning. This is Sam, and today is May 1st. Oh, nice. And we're officially in like the middle of spring now, guys.
I thought 2023 just started.
Well, we're almost 5/12 of the way through towards the new year. Actually, we're a third. We're a third of the way through the new year. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. I hope your resolutions
seems like just yesterday. Our little SBF was still doing Adderall parties in the Bahamas. How time flies.
Him and his polycule.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure maybe in 2023 and 2024 we get a return of the polycule. There's that Zulazu or Zulazu thing going on right now, the nation state stuff. So who knows what's happening out there. So guys, the big news of the day in DeFi land is that MakerDAO has proposed to terminate its $30 million credit line with Société Générale, France's third largest bank. And this is pretty big. This is one of their bigger collateralized lending pools. And yeah.
So are either of you guys super involved in Maker? Like, this is kind of a curveball for me. It seems like we are going with Maker in this very like concrete direction that is like bridging between on-chain DeFi and real-world assets. And, a lot of people were not happy with that necessarily, but it seemed like a clear direction. And this is interesting to me. I mean, maybe they just like weren't happy with the partner or I don't know.
Do you remember that SG Forge thing that we talked about last week where the contract is like fully centralized and everything has to be whitelisted and stuff? So the thing about it is that MakerDAO is now trying to actively seeking to limit its exposure to RWAs in line with its controversial in-game roadmap. So I don't know. Maybe the Coinbase thing is enough.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead, Garrett.
Oh, I was just going to say, when I joined this space, like, I really didn't quite understand why all these DeFi purists and maximalists were saying to avoid RWAs, and seeing through all the hoops that and all the troubles that come up when you actually start playing with TradFi, it kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, do you guys remember, wasn't it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, like not that long ago, that Maker was talking about putting a ton of money in the Gemini program?
Yes. Yeah, I remember that. But Gemini had exposure to Genesis, didn't it?
Yeah, I actually, one of my friends from before crypto is the lead plaintiff on the class action against Genesis, or sorry, against Gemini. So that's definitely happening, but that all happened like back in December. So I don't know. Anyway,
let's get him on the show.
Yeah,
that's it's always interesting. It's interesting to see the diversity of thought between the two major stablecoins, right? Where Maker has gone down this route where they want to solve climate change and they want to move all their money into RWAs and they want to just be this like quasi like on and off chain bank that is following like Rune's thought process. And then on the other hand, you have like Frax, where Frax is like, we don't do RWAs. We don't trust anybody to take our money because who knows what can happen, right? That money could be seized. It becomes a process in the courts at that point, and we'd rather just have everything on chain. And so this
sort of, I mean, Frax is making some pretty serious moves off chain with this the depository account at the Federal Reserve. If they're making real moves,
yeah. Well, I think that comes back. I mean, you're always going to have collateral risk, right? So like, I think the two major issues there are. If you're just accepting in USDC gets to keep all the interest income, and
Mhm.
then you're dependent on them to manage their risk when
Yeah.
maybe it's just better if the protocol does it itself. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think the big thing, a trend that we're going to see in 2023 and 2024, potentially when we have this new stablecoin bill, is that the model that Circle has is just suboptimal for everyone, right? I mean, it's great for Circle, right? They get to keep all the interest income. They're making, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, and all the DAOs and other people who are just holding USDC in their treasury by the millions get zero from that. So at some point, I think it's going to have to change, and somebody's going to come along and create a stable coin, but give kickbacks into the DAOs. I think Paxos is trying this out, but I think that's going to be how Circle may get a little bit more competitive between it and its the people coming up in the stablecoin world.
Yeah, I think like there's a whole stablecoin rabbit hole we can go down that is
Yeah.
interesting and for an actual show and not a news show. But on this one particularly, I just think I think we all like should just kind of take a moment to reflect on like how one of the first OG protocols has become like a real battleground for like, does our attention stay on chain or do we like try to osmosis ourselves into real world assets? And like, I don't have a right answer. I have opinions, but it's just like really interesting to see how this is playing out and like in kind of a bloody, or at least like bloody for crypto way.
Mm-hmm. And something else that happened over the weekend is that Alex Pertsev started tweeting again. That's pretty cool. So he was released from prison or from jail a couple of days before that, but on Friday it was the first time that he tweeted out. It's nice to see that he's back at a computer now and is out of the slammer.
Yeah.
Nice, but he's still got a tough road ahead of him. Like he's still going to be facing some pretty tough charges, and he might well end up back in the slammer. So I'm not too up to date in all the legal charges. I just think that from a due process perspective, it's nice that the wheels of justice are finally grinding.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always easier to handle your case outside of jail than it is inside, right?
Yeah.
When
now he's allowed to tweet, but SBF is not, right?
I know SBF should definitely be in jail.
SBF doesn't have time for tweeting because he's too busy playing League of Legends.
I don't even think he gets a flip phone, right? That's how he is able to communicate, right? But
Probably
it's going
find a way to trade crypto on it.
Yeah,
exactly. Another big story that happened. If this was 2017 or 2018, the price of Bitcoin probably would have been up about $2,000 or $3,000. But we're in 2023, and news like this makes no impact on the market anymore. In that PayPal has decided to extend crypto transfers to more than 60 million Venmo customers. Like 4 or 5 years ago, this would have been huge news, but it didn't make any dent in the market.
Yeah.
You're talking about it's 2023, and it's kind of funky to note that Bitcoin's doubled since the start of 2023. It started the year around 16,000. So maybe it's already priced in. Like we saw before the bear market hit, like a ton of institutional adoption coming, and the institutions haven't slowed down. The only thing that's slowed down is the money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think for I never tried to buy crypto on PayPal, but my understanding before was that you could like buy Ethereum or buy Bitcoin, but you could never transfer it. So it was like it's essentially like a perp, right? But like a 1x perp with no collateral. But anyway, I totally agree with you, Sam. It's just super cool to like see the ball moving forward on like really just like bread and butter like functionality of like what crypto is supposed to be and like getting it in consumers' hands. And it's just I do think that like the road to like mass adoption and like $100,000 ETH is like in these like small wins that go unnoticed, but like really provide the rails for like just like commonplace adoption for this. So I can't wait to buy lunch or my drugs or whatever through PayPal and Ethereum.
Exactly.
By drugs, you're referring to, of course, to prescription drugs prescribed by your doctor for medical conditions, right?
What's a prescription?
Yeah. Well, it was the first and best use case, and probably will continue to be as we go forward. is buying drugs.
Yeah.
In case of any investigation by a federal entity or similar, I do not know. I got here probably added by a third party,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I'm gonna put two fingers in the air and say statute of limitations is over at this point. So,
yeah. No.
Right.
Anyway, let's move on.
It's been more than a decade, guys. Come on,
Since I bought drugs. Okay.
Well, no, I mean with the dark
Silk
market
Road.
that shall not be named. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. It's been over a decade now, so I think that time has
actually
passed.
To bring us back on track, like that is the good reminder for this. It's like the person that we should look at, Alexia, like the worst case scenario is Ross Ulbricht, right? Who, like, say what you will about like the whole like thing where he like may or may not have like tried to hire a hitman that like may or may not have been like a FBI agent. It's like at the end of the day, like this is the cost of implementing this technology, and like Ross Ulbricht will spend the next 3 lifetimes in jail.
And like it's just the justice system is really strange, and I think hopefully Ross gets his date in court at some time to go back and take a look at some of these charges that he has, because if you look into it, the story is really weird, and they just kind of rammed it through, and a lot of the agents, some of the agents like embezzled money out, and went to prison themselves.
I know, it's really crazy. I actually let me see if I can find the name. There's a book written about it that I highly recommend. I'll check out my Twitter. I'll tweet it out, but it's a really good like a view into like what this industry used to be, and like for us in it now that are like pretty serious about building, it's like really important to know our history and our origins.
Yeah, if people are interested, I'd recommend there's a DAO called Free Ross DAO that's dedicated towards trying to advance on this front.
So a cool thing that happened, or at least that we saw when we were talking about building, is that Binance Labs, reportedly their assets have grown to be $9 billion, up from $7.5 billion last year. So even in the depths of the bear market, valuations for Binance keep on going up. Looks like they're able to actually deploy capital in a way which is net positive for them.
It's also pretty remarkable considering CZ is under several forms of investigation from the U.S. regulators. So it's kind of maybe a sign the market doesn't think that it'll have teeth. One other interesting development out of Binance over the past week is they are also joining the LSD wars. So they introduced BETH, of which on Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum, there's a wrapped version of it. So if people are interested, there's several new developments for the LSD ecosystem.
So the report continues that they have invested in over 200 projects from more than 25 countries in 6 continents, and 50 of those projects have been incubated by Binance Labs, and that's pretty awesome. I mean, to amass a $9 billion VC portfolio in just a few years is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, we can all have opinions on Binance or whatever, but this is growth in the space, and this is growth in innovation, and let's welcome that.
Yeah, exactly. So
would you take money from Binance if they were going to invest in you?
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, yeah, like it's all about the deal and like the specific partners that would be working with me on that side, but like I don't have any problem with like the narrative.
So what continues in Elizabeth Warren's war on building, her war and building an anti-crypto army, First Republic's assets are up for U.S. auction. The embattled bank was put into receivership by the FDIC, and now JP Morgan is planning to pay $10.6 billion to the San Francisco-based bank.
So there's a couple interesting things going on here. One, I would like it to be known that like 12 days ago, I was just approved to move a lot of my personal assets over to First Republic. So that's what I'm currently dealing with. But I think what's interesting here is, like, obviously we're just like doing round 2 of the Silicon Valley Bank signature bank thing from a couple months ago. But if you look at JP Morgan's like press releases, what they're talking about is like how much profit they're going to make out of this deal. And it's just like, I don't really know what to take away from that. Like, I don't know if like we should be building a system where the globally the globally important systemic banks like are basically just like sitting around waiting for things to fail so that because like that's a profitable endeavor for them.
I mean, that seems to have been the takeaway from all the macro chads I follow. Like, I don't know much about macro and TradFi, but the people who follow it closely basically said that the effect of all the Silicon Valley Bank fallout was explicitly to roll up, let the smaller banks fail and let them get gobbled up by the big four banks, which will then have excessive power over the economy. And all four of those banks are fairly well controlled by the US government. So it essentially is like proxy control of the economy to the
But like
government. So,
what does that mean, control of the economy?
just because the banks have kind of outsized influence in terms of the ability to put money into circulation and take it out of circulation.
I just like would be like incredibly shocked if this consolidation like actually in like the real world boots on the ground like really changes like the government's ability to influence the economy.
Well, they already have a ton of ability,
Yeah,
as I see
exactly.
it. So
Yeah.
I think at the margin they might gain a little bit more, but plebs like us, we don't even notice any difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think like all the banking system's supposed to be set up where you have like these like super globally systemic important banks that like can't fail or else like we're all screwed. And then you're supposed to have this like frontier of like small to medium sized regional banks that are like, they're able to take more risk, which means they're able to drive more money into like innovation and into growth and like that's supposed to be what the model is. And so when I see this, it's like, oh, thank God we have like this resilient system of globally systemic banks. And then like with the backstop of the federal government that can make sure that when First Republic goes down, there's someone to swallow it up. But like every time this happens, our like growth engine and our innovation engine goes from like powered on in this like growth area in First Republic to the like quiet, sleepy, like we are just going to backstop like boring mortgages in JP Morgan. So like this like boat is like a problem for like the long-term growth prospects of our country.
Yeah, my understanding is that this small, like longer tail of small banks, in order to try and compete now with the JP Morgans, who have much more explicit guarantees that they're
Yeah.
systemically important, is that they just have to excessively take risk. So I think that if that does play out, you're going to see all these smaller banks like becoming desperate to survive, taking crazy chances,
Well,
and
like
way more of them like
let's talk about
going
what
belly up.
risk means in maybe not this context because I'm not familiar yet, but Silicon Valley Bank, right? The risky stuff that they did was took all of their customer deposits and bought treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. And like the problem was that the rates went up too fast and then they didn't have liquidity and then it caused like a credit crunch and that was a bank run and then it was over. But like, is that irresponsible?
No. So they were following the Fed's guidance and they got bit by the Fed's guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they must have known about duration risk. I mean, it's in historic lows.
No, they knew, but like,
know.
there's nothing to do. Like, you can't hedge it out. Like, first of all, if you hedge it out, that means you would literally have no profit. So, like, why even bother doing it in the first place?
Yes.
And second of all, if every bank could hedge the position, then there would be no one to take the other side of the hedge.
Can I ask you a different question? When it comes to like optics here, let's say that First Republic had been the first bank to go down instead of Silicon Valley. Do you think that just because of its name, because First Republic sounds like a very, nice, well-to-do, normal bank, not like Silicon Valley tech startup bank. First Republic got some bailouts. It got that $30 billion bailout from JP Morgan, which is actually being consolidated and repaid by JP Morgan through this transaction. But what's notable is that the FDIC is going to provide JP Morgan a $5 billion 5-year fixed rate term financing to cover the liability shortfall from First Republic as a result of the bank's historic run. And so what my question is like, why is the FDIC lending directly to JP Morgan? Like, where are they getting that money from? And, what are the terms for that? That's really strange, right?
Yeah.
And it's not
just
the
to
FDIC's job.
To answer your like technical question, the funds that the FDIC is actually an insurance fund. And so all the banks that participate in the system are paying premiums every year. And
Right.
so like that's where the actual money comes from. We can talk about the politics of that if that's correct and if that's just, but that's to answer your question.
I understand. So, but the bank is providing JP Morgan $50 in term financing though to cover that liability hole.
Right. So what's happening is that like the government agency that has been collecting premiums for like decades has decided that.
I understand. But in addition to that, JP Morgan is going to have a $2.6 billion post-tax profit, a one-time gain at closing, which is not expected to include restructuring costs of $2 billion over the course of 2023 and 2024. And so more importantly, the loans that they're acquiring from First Republic are valued at $22 billion. And so the bank, JP Morgan, assumes that they're going to have an IRR of 20% on those loans. So it just seems a little bit fishy that they're providing term financing, plus they're getting this very nice loan deal, and all at taxpayer, or not at taxpayer's expense, but at the bank insurer's expense. I mean, other players in the industry must be looking at this, wondering why JP Morgan is getting such a sweet deal on all these assets.
Hey, if you look at the stock market, JP Morgan is up 2.4% today. The rest of the market's flat. So good news for TradFi people who own JPM.
Yeah. Wait, sorry. Sam, I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but like the math of what's going on here is that, so like First Republic is insolvent, right? Because they don't have enough cash to like give to their depositors. And like they're insolvent because like all of their bonds are like low interest rate. And so if they sold them today, they take a huge haircut. But if JP Morgan takes them and doesn't have to sell them, then they can just let those like securities expire and then get the full percent. So this is how you can get those like huge IRRs. But like all you have to put down there is just like to make sure that you have like you never have to sell. Then you can lock in those IRRs.
Correct. And so since JP Morgan's GSB and doesn't have the issues that First Republic would ever have.
Also these numbers are tiny for JP Morgan.
What, a $22 billion loan book that's been added on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like these are like multi-trillion-dollar banks.
I understand. But still, it's going to go to pay somebody's bonuses at some point.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah. Welcome to America.
Welcome to America. But the banking system is very sound and very safe. It's all going to get rolled up into the G-SIBs eventually. There's too many banks in America, and we just need to put all the other ones out of business soon. So, or you just need to bank and be unbanked in crypto, like the rest of us. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today. We're going to end the stream and then start a new one with the llamas. I hope you guys are excited. We're really going to have a good time because they are. Have they finished their mint yet? We talked about the whitelisting the other day. They've done the private mint so far, and
they finished the whitelist mint, and the public mint is going to be going live pretty soon, I believe. Maybe they'll be able to give us more details on that.
Oh, perfect. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Today is the 1st of May Day, and have a good one, guys. We'll see you tomorrow for Tuesday. This is Leviathan News, and what was actually? Hold on. Garrett, what was the sign off that we chose from the other day?
May the Leviathan bless you.
May the Leviathan bless you. Or until the next tide. Until the next tide. May the depths guide you.
All hail the Leviathan.
All hail Leviathan. All right. See you tomorrow, guys.